to go live? Yes, I am ready to go live. Look at us. 4 seconds. We are live.
All right.
Hello, friends and family, and welcome to another Saturday morning of coffee. Today in a Star Wars mug.
All right.
I really love Donna's mug. Donna, show your mug to the world. There we go. That's right. I tell stories.
Yes, sorry.
We are talking about claiming our stake in creativity. And so we're not deciding anymore. We're just doing.
Absolutely.
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday to you too. I'm excited that it's not too hot yet, and I got dressed and took a shower this morning. Oh, what? And even blew dry my hair a little.
It's a Saturday morning miracle.
It is, because that doesn't happen on Saturday morning. Yeah.
I went a little bit of water for my hair, and so that it.
Yeah. You can feel it all the time. Yeah.
Half an hour ago, you wouldn't have this looked like something else entirely. So thank you for joining me. Thank you to everyone who joins us on Saturday morning. Even if you're just scrolling by real quickly on Facebook, I appreciate your time and attention. And for everybody who's listening on the podcast, welcome to Saturday morning coffee and conversation. Whenever you're listening to this, maybe you're listening to this on a Tuesday afternoon or a Sunday morning. We are coming together every week. This is an exercise for me. This process, this coming together every Saturday morning is an exercise in consistency, because I am not always the most consistent person. There's Sandy. Good morning, love. I am not always the most consistent person, right? And I needed to set for myself and for this project an accountability partner. And so what I decided to do was mark this spot and then invite people to show up here with me every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning and just keep doing it. So that's what we are doing. We are here. We are taking shame off the table. We are claiming our stake in who we are. We are no longer deciding. We are doing. Right?
Yeah.
So
I love
Donna is a member of our, if you could see me, family. She is a member of our, of our Restory community. And Donna showed up in one of my classes 2.5 years ago now.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. And made a list.
Long time ago, but yeah.
And made a list. Well, it's a long time, not because of the amount of time that has passed, but because of the amount of work and growth that you have done. You came into that class with an intention, and you have fulfilled that intention. So why don't you talk a little bit about where you came from, where you started, and where you are now, and what that journey has been like for you?
Well, 2.5 years ago, I wanted to take a class, a writing class. I wanted to get back to writing, because it felt like an imperative. I've been spending so much time advocating for my kids, and I kind of lost myself. And I, still heard this little voice in me from when I was 7, Donna, you're a writer. And I still felt like that wasn't who I am. And when I saw your class Among Life in 10 Minutes, because I was looking at Life in 10 Minutes,
right.
I'd taken classes there before. It also had this storytelling, oral storytelling aspect to it. And I was like, well, that seems like I don't know. It made me think about the days when I did spoken word I will say I did spoken word in quotes, because it was a way for me to accomplish writing, like finish pieces of writing, the smallest pieces of writing I could think of, and then have a deadline to go and say it on a stage.
Right.
Freaking scary. But I was like, it was also thrilling. And so I thought, maybe this is what I need to do. And I was excited when I went today at your class. And by the end of that session, that 2-hour session, I was crying and knew what the next step was going to be. Right. So I needed to get back to me. You asked, the second prompt was to make, how do you survive in daily life, I think. And I made a list of things that I do. What I, when I read it out loud to everyone, I was sadder and sadder, even though people were identifying with it and laughing, but it was not funny to me. It was how I live, and that was not cool to me. So I'm sorry that I'm moving around. I'm trying to get the view right.
You're good. This platform is different than Zoom because it flips or it doesn't flip, and so it's taking a little bit of time for me to like get used to using it, but it's just way easier in every other capacity.
So I made this list and read it out loud and realized that I was surviving instead of thriving, and it made me so sad. I think maybe you thought, you asked me, you said, please come back. Like you thought I was not going to come back. And I was like, I fucking have to come back. Sorry.
All language is acceptable here. Right. We accept all words here. Well, not all words, but all curse words.
There was no way that I could leave it like that. And I knew that I've always been looking for community. And this just seemed like, okay, I did it again. I tricked myself into getting to a place that that was going to be helpful.
Right.
And I was like, I'm going to write again. And then it was like, you're going to find out about you again. So I was excited to do that and scared as hell because I just didn't know what that meant for me. Mm-hmm. Because it felt big and scary and like, life changing, which, what does life changing mean? Yeah. Does it mean changing your whole freaking life? Or maybe sometimes,
Right.
And then I just became addicted in the best way.
Well, I said that first time, please come back, because in many cases, when people show up and they are sort of blindsided in that way by this realization, it can be so overwhelming that the only thing that you can do is avoid it.
Yeah, I have definitely been in that place before, and right. I have done that too. I know I avoided going back to classes a long time ago.
Right.
But I'm older now, and I'm like,
right.
Either you're going to do this, or do you want to hide for the rest of your life?
Right.
I didn't want to hide, but it's hard to take up space, and
wait. Oh, no. It's hard to take up space, and we need to pause and say it's hard to take up space, period, and then leave some silence there, because there is no truer statement.
It is hard to take up space.
Right.
And yet it is the best feeling when that is something that you're trying to do and you do it. And then now for me, I'm like, oh, maybe I could take a little more space. Maybe I could take even more space.
Right.
And everyone's thinking, you're not even taking up very much space. So,
Right. Right. But before, I wasn't taking up any space at all. I was giving all my space away.
Yeah. Okay.
I was like, curled up in a ball in the corner, like trying to just give all myself away and earn my right to be here on this planet.
Is it moving with me? This is weird. Okay, sorry.
It is moving with you.
Okay, okay.
Are you moving it? I just thought you were moving it.
I was moving, but then it felt like I don't know. Maybe it moves as well. Okay. I was just trying to hold my camera, but maybe I need a more secure place. Yes. And so, yes, I was definitely in a ball, and then like I just moved my finger, and it felt like
right. I filled up the whole room.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, we do everything here through the lens of mental health. And that can mean a lot of things, right? And so I'm curious, like, through the lens of mental health, for a person who is not, you are not a person diagnosed with, a significant mental illness, you have not lived with, the symptoms and management of a mental health diagnosis in the same way that a lot of our participants do, right? Yeah. And so I think it's important to say that because it just expands the if you could see me table. And it's really important to sort of understand that like everybody that comes through here has a different level of experience with managing their mental health, and that managing your mental health is like a universal thing, and everybody does it or needs to do it or should be doing it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, you were a person who was, subsisting when you started on this journey. And, how has sort of stepping into this space changed your mental health?
Oh, I feel like it allowed me to find me, that I was playing a support role for my family. And like, if I go all the way back, my bio family, my
right.
biological family, that I, my family of origin, and all through my life, and claiming writing as my thing had always been really, really hard, and I always dropped it for other people.
Right.
And so I was trying very hard not to drop it for anyone. And by the end of that year, I think I came to the so I think I came to you in like maybe 2019, and then by the end of that year, I was like saying, I went away with one friend, away from my family. I don't usually do that. To the beach, and it happened to be like this beautiful December, late December time. So it was actually warm out, and I was like saying to the ocean, ride or die, and letting people go, and energetically, and it was very powerful. And I decided that, and I told myself I was going to write. That was going to be my year, right? Travel, storytell, and whatever other creative work was going to happen.
Right.
So I planned to get a story down to 5 minutes so that I could go to the moth. And the closest moth, I mean, I had every single moth within like 100 miles on my calendar.
Right.
But the closest one was DC. So I was trying to figure out how to get to DC on a Monday night during the week, you know, picking up my children from school and then get to DC by 6 p.m., having parked and everything, you know, which, you know, is like 2 hours away. So on a good day. And March was going to be the month.
Right. And remind our listening audience what happened in March of 2020, as if they need any reminding.
Well, you know, it was hard not to take it personally. And, you know, it had been coming. Honestly, it was already here. They just hadn't declared it. But finally, they did declare it. And so that we had to quarantine. And I could not go anywhere except on Zoom. And I really, it hurt. I was angry. And, you know, the only things I could think of to write were like high school memories, which I never wanted to do. But it helped me find it helped me travel, actually, because I found people all over the country doing storytelling.
Right.
And teaching online and spaces. I found a lot of love in Chicago, which was great, and New York and LA. And it was, it's hard to say that I had a good run in pandemic because so many people did not. And it's not that it was not hard. It just, I feel lucky that I was able to take that opportunity and that people provided those opportunities to be creative. I mean, I think the pandemic helped me see just how much creativity plays in my own life and other people's lives, especially during the bad times, right? And the fact that it's not supported in our culture makes it painfully obvious why that maybe they don't want us to be happy or successful on our own in our own lives.
It empowers people to think about things differently, right? And that things can be different and that we can imagine a different world. And so if it's not being used as a commodity, then it's a threat.
Yeah, which is so sad because I feel like I would have gotten to this point way before.
Yes.
But I'm really glad that I'm here and that I can speak about it because I'm a super freaking, you know, pitbull cheerleader for creativity. Right. I think while I was going to your class, I also took a class to finally finish The Artist's Way.
Yes.
Because I needed community. Every time I tried to build a group around The Artist's Way, which is a 12-chapter recovery of creativity, I just couldn't accomplish it alone. Yeah. And the groups always fell apart. So I paid for it at Life in Town, and it was great. And I finished it for the first time in, you know, since the book had been published, which was like 1992. Right. And I've been doing it for that
Right.
So I was starting to feel like an artist, but I will say that the first time I claimed that identity was like artist, as in the grand
Right.
I don't know, definition of the term, was when I was advocating for my kids. I found I was searching for a lot of help and support, and the folks who were the most supportive were a group of activists called Southerners on New Ground that were new to Richmond or Virginia, and it's a regional Southern organization of queer people of color, centering queer people of color, and across race, gender identity, sexuality, class, ability, age, documentation status, and geographic location, among other things. And so
I'm a member.
I was so, when they started talking to me about, you know, the lens that they looked through, I was totally sold. I was hooked, and it seemed like something that I was looking for in my life. And they were, always gathering together. Mainly they were college students, but or college age students. And I hello baby. Can I use this? Yes, you can. They invited me to a national coming out party, and I was like, okay, what do I have? I mean, all right, I'll come, of course, but
Right.
And so everyone is talking about their coming out experiences around gender and sexuality, and they're like, it doesn't have to be about gender or sexuality. It could be anything, Donna. And I was like, well, I'm a parent and I'm an advocate, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm an artist. And everybody went, yay!
Right. Yeah.
So
said it.
I came out in 2011, which I think I hadn't thought of writing as art or as an artist, because we always think about painting or photography.
Right.
But writing doesn't always make it into the arts organizations, or like it's peripheral as marketing and things like that.
It's got other functions.
Right.
Right.
And it felt big to me. I was like, wow, I didn't realize I needed to say this. I needed to claim it. And I think there's so many pieces to this journey, but and they're not all it's a long journey. It's been all my life, actually.
It's a big puzzle. Right. It's a very big puzzle.
Yes. But I feel like this has been, like, all of that collectively is working toward right now.
Right.
And this has been the biggest jump that I've made in as an artist.
Right.
As a consistent artist, I understand the need for consistency. I have built in, like, writing with people along the week and taking classes, like, repeatedly over and over, just to make sure that I keep writing. And it's working. And I'm finding more community. I think it's impossible to do. I mean, I feel like it's impossible to do anything in our lives without community.
Yeah.
We need that support, because we're always going to have those times when we don't believe in ourselves, or feel like an imposter. We're afraid to take up space. Who am I? I'm not lovable, or what, all the things.
I'm not worthy.
I'm not worthy. But people can help us remember that stuff. when we can't. And that has been one of the best things about taking your class 2.5 years ago. Like it helped me get back in that. Like I knew I was looking for these things.
Right.
And so what I learned from activism is that you got to just keep preparing until you find the right spot. And then you're there.
Then you're ready when you get there.
Right. And you get to try to make the change then.
Right.
And with the people that are also trying to make change. And that's what I found there. And then I was able to find it in other places and I could see it more easily what my artist needed, what myself needed. I wish we were teaching this in school.
Yeah. Listening to yourself, trusting your instincts, not, allowing people and systems to shame you into complying.
Yeah. Manipulating yourself, it's really hard work.
So I remember when you started your sort of most recent Artist's Way experience, when you were in my class. When was it was Whitney was teaching it at Life in 10, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I remember the first time that I did the Artist's Way was, not quite early 90s, but definitely early 2000s. I started it when I lived in New York and I couldn't finish it. I was in a terrible headspace, had no community, didn't know how to find it, ultimately was just a shell. But I remember what I was able to do at that time resonated so deeply with me about, which is like in the very beginning, probably the first week, the conversation about how we are all born creatives. Everyone is born with the ability to be creative.
It's the natural order of life.
Exactly. And it is socialized out of us.
Yes.
By, fear of the unknown, by fear of challenging, by fear of asking questions, by fear of curiosity. We have an innate fear in our culture of the curiosity of children, right? We don't like it. And collectively, it has been beaten out of us.
Yes.
Why are you asking so many questions? Why do you need to know that? What are you doing? Why did you do that? Don't touch that. Don't mess with that. Don't put that. Why did you put that in there? Yeah. Why did you dump that on the floor? Don't. And what we don't realize is that, the collectively disciplining of our children to function in the world, the way we do it removes so much of that innate curiosity, that innate creativity that may not lead everyone to being an artist, but certainly has assured that, we've landed on the moon and we have created, technology and, like creativity is not just being a painter or, writing a song.
Yeah.
And so collectively, we just sort of beat this innate quality out of our children, and then we perpetuate it throughout our development. And then, we live in a culture that, we've seen it 1,000 times over the last year, where, artists say, where did you turn when you were isolated in your house and alone with your people or by yourself?
Right. When you thought it was impossible.
Right.
Everything was impossible. Yeah.
You turned to storytelling in all of its forms. You turn to television and movies and music and books, and, you turn to creating in the kitchen and, the collective outdoor art projects and
your home and your gardens and your
right,
making your space a place you want to be,
making your space a place that is uniquely yours, right? Accessing and utilizing that innate curiosity and creativity and how can I and what can I do, and all of those qualities that in many cases we are taught not to trust.
Yeah, the possibilities, the innate, yeah,
right.
What do I want?
Right. And what is right? What is the correct way to do this, right? And so when I think about the artist's way, that's always like the first thing that I think of. And then that we're all born with it. It's not, yes, some people have talent, natural ability. Right. But, or a particular temperament for, creativity. Right. But everyone can be creative. And we all benefit from, we all benefit from accessing that aspect of our, our brain. And also just, from an energetic or spiritual point of view, like there's benefit to it. And I at that same time, I think of all the stories that I've heard, like yours, like your drum story, which I would like to connect when we put this on the podcast. I'd like to put the drum story with it, like at the end of it, so that we can have that. Because the drum story is really important, and I'll let you talk about that in a second. But
thank you.
The reason that story is so powerful is, because you've worked on it and it's real and it's powerful, but it's also universal. I know so many people who were told by a teacher or a parent or a well-meaning community member, quote unquote, well-meaning.
And maybe not. Yeah. Maybe
right.
not.
Yeah. Right. Well, because they're trying to, on some level, trying to protect you from, humiliation or getting your hopes up or whatever it is. Don't sing. You don't have a good voice. You shouldn't sing. Right. Don't, when I've heard stories of people who were in band in middle school who played an instrument not particularly well. Right. And so when we have the concert, the teacher says to the child, pretend to play. Don't actually play.
Oh my God.
If I hear sounds coming from this instrument, you're going to be in trouble.
Jesus.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
Because you're not good at this.
Yeah.
Right. And the outcome, the process is not as important as the product.
Right. Yeah. I mean, oh gosh. Yeah, and that can live with you for a long time, even if it's not the thing that you want to do. Like, I'm not good at this. I'm not good enough at this, I think, so I shouldn't do it.
Right, at all.
Because I'll embarrass myself and like my family or the teacher or whoever. And we self-edit. And that prevents us from doing a lot of things. And we think that so many things are impossible when actually all we have to do is just try them.
Yeah. Very little is impossible.
Yeah.
Right.
It's sad. I mean, it's great also when we get that information. I just want to say that the first chapter in The Artist's Way is called Recovering a Sense of Safety. And I honestly, the last time that I did it with a couple of groups that I formed, and so that I could live through the election because I just wasn't sure that I would be able to pick myself up off the ground if Trump got elected again.
Right.
Because it's bad for art.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been alone in that one.
I needed to like be creative during that process, like really focus, and it finally hit me. I'm like, the first chapter is recovering a sense of safety. How did I miss this? Like the million times that I've read this book.
Right. Well, we don't, there are things we don't see until we see them, right? Yep. They're in front of us our whole lives. And somehow.
Yes. It's a new book every time.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, how incredible is that? I've got Victoria Reeves here in our comments. So
I can't see any comments, but okay.
Are you, because you're on your phone. Okay. So Victoria says, fab conversation, and this is my favorite topic, process versus product. Yes, Victoria, let's have this conversation because it's what the If You Could See Me project is all about. Like, we've got a final product, but the final product means, a fingernail. The process is the most important part. The reason that we have the power that we have in that product is because we focus our attention on the process. Talking forever, exploration, loving our journey. Yes, sorry.
I want to say a shout out for Victoria Reeves because she is a creativity queen, goddess, whatever. Up there, is like an effervescent creativity person, and about community and creating and it's wonderful. And she is somebody that I thankfully found during the pandemic because I wouldn't have met her otherwise, I think, unless I got to Chicago for any length of time, because I wouldn't have noticed this class online. So I'm grateful. Thank you, Victoria.
Awesome. Well, Victoria, welcome. Welcome to our family. I would love to connect with you as well. You sound amazing. She's talking about loving our journey. Yes, loving our journey. Creativity has sustained us through the pandemic as it did before and will continue to forever. Yes. Unlimited possibilities await when we use creative problem solving, receptive thinking, and an immersive celebration of now into our approach to everything. Yes. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Victoria.
Yeah.
Sandy says, I have never considered myself to be particularly creative person. I have a vivid memory of being admonished by my first grade teacher for coloring a character's hair blue. Blue simply was not a hair color. Yes, because, it's very important for 6 and 7-year-olds to be, biologically correct in their coloring.
And not creative.
Right? Not at all. Don't imagine that things could be, not.
I love this color. Yeah.
Right. No. Because then you'll think that you could have blue hair. And then what might happen to the universe if people start having blue hair?
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't.
What would happen?
Nothing.
Now I'm thinking,
absolutely nothing. The world would be more interesting to look at, right?
It might be like thing 1 and thing 2. Or
exactly. Right.
Smurfs.
I know quite a few people with blue hair, and my world hasn't imploded yet. So
also, Sandy, you are creative. Hat person.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. But that's the point, is that Sandy is creative. Sandy is a great writer and a very good storyteller, and and still does not imagine or identify herself as a creative person. And how can that be, how can we foster that more effectively?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I do feel like creativity is this agent of personal growth and cultural change. I believe it's where the possibilities are. And so I feel like if we all did believe in creativity, in our own creativity and the creativity of others, that we would make some really powerful change. And also understands ourselves a lot better and what our own boundaries are, and be able to defend them. So, and I could talk a lot more about this, but I won't.
Well,
I feel like
no, but you just like, you know, what just jumped out for me when you said that is really sort of challenging our world on what is art for. Right. What is it for? What is the purpose of it? Is it to make money? Is it to be good at it? Is it to discover ourselves? Is it, you know, like, what is the purpose? And I think that so much of, you know, and I'd love for, you know, everybody else who's participating to really to weigh in on this if you have anything. But, you know, this idea that you're supposed to be talented or good at something innately in order to be worthy of doing it. You know, I have this ongoing conversation with my father, who I love dearly, and who is such a supporter of the arts and of creativity, and just, you know, cries at musicals. Like, you know, 65-year-old white dude from Richmond, Virginia, you know, lives in the suburbs, is, you know, very buttoned up and cries at musicals. Right. And so, like, a lover of the arts, always supported me, always, you know, wants to see people doing cool things, comes to all of our shows, thinks that my kids' creativity is amazing, my husband's creativity is amazing, does not consider himself to be a creative person, one. Right. And two, we have this discussion on a regular basis about, you know, the sort of value of innate talent versus showing up.
Right.
And somehow we revere talent, natural ability, above the person that continues to show up out of a sincere, deep love, passion, and commitment to doing the thing.
And maybe need. Like, I would, when I lived in Jersey City, I would come across, there's a spoken word artist, actually, he does many things. His name is Reggie Gaines, and he wrote Bring in the Noise, Bring in the Funk, the
Broadway
show. And he would tell me that he had to do it. There was no way that he could not write and perform and be art, you know, and it helped me to understand that. And he, every time I saw him, he'd be like, "Are you writing? Are you writing, Donna?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." Yes, sir. I am doing that. And he would just, like, give me little tidbits of information about, like, I don't know, what he was doing or how he was doing it. And I'm like, okay, I know why Reggie's in my life. I just, you know, I don't know what to do with it. So keeping it there. So it has come.
So it's that voice now. Are you writing, Donna?
Yes.
Are you writing, Donna? Are you doing it? Are you being yourself?
Yeah, exactly. What do you need to do? I need to write. I do. I have to. It's me. I will write or I will die.
Yes.
Even if I'm alive. So.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is that, you know, going back to that place, that day in that class with that list, that was, well, you know, you were close.
Yeah. I feel like I was saved that day. I know that's, feels so weird, but it was like it's like a religious experience, because it's a spiritual experience. Like, okay, you can see where you are. This is a bottom. You've been at a bottom before, and this is a bottom, and now you need to go up.
Right.
What are you going to do about that? And luckily, I had done the artist way like a million times, not doing it, and I knew some of the things that I needed.
You had a scaffolding already. Right. Right.
Things, and I knew some artists that I could talk to about it, and they were like, yeah, and could cheer me on. And so I got up off the floor and it's like, okay, I'm not going to survive anymore, and what am I going to do? And try to write. I tried to write for 10 minutes a day.
You did it for a long time.
Yeah
Right.
I'm writing at midnight, but I was writing 10 minutes, and it's amazing how small the effort has to be, but it's still something that we won't find time for, because it feels hard, or it's emotional, right? And so uncovering these stories, like you do with the If You Could See Me project, is super powerful, because we are trying to get to the story that's central to us. But each time we come to a class with you, or any class really, we're trying to tell this story that's central to us at that time.
Yes.
And because there's so many stories that are central to us, so sometimes it feels like it's hard to figure that one out. Sometimes it's really obvious. And now I realize that every time I uncover one of these bigger stories, there's going to be stuff underneath. I'm not really that worried that I'm gonna, of course there's something in the back of my mind, the censor that's like, you will run out of things to write. But I'm like, no, I won't. I can't. No. I've got loads of shit.
Right, but seriously, because
and bad stuff. Yeah.
Because everything can be a story, right? Like everything does have a trip to the grocery store, if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Can be a religious experience, right? It can they exist everywhere.
Yes.
It's just a matter of, do you show up and listen?
Yeah, right. Yeah. What is happening for you in that moment?
Right.
And taking stock of what's going on in your body and your mind and your heart. And
it's the hardest thing about the process. So whether it's my process or whatever process, the hardest thing is to show up and just listen. Right?
True.
It's terrifying to just show up without an attachment to the outcome, and to sit and listen and be uncomfortable for whatever the time it takes to do that, and to look at it, to let the story come out, to trust the story, to listen to the story, to follow the story, to not try to control the story, to all that's really hard and scary.
Yes, absolutely. And when you get some bad feedback about it, I think the feedback that I'm talking about.
Yes.
I was telling a story and somebody said, I feel like you don't really care about this. And I'm like, and it hurt for a couple months.
Right.
And it affected me for months longer. And I had to work, like, I know how to fight this. Even the artist way will give me specific directions to fight this, right. But it's still, I knew it was there. And then it helped me realize what spaces I needed to be in. Mm-hmm. Right. Because I really need good feedback.
Right. And
bad feedback.
It's so important, Donna, because in many cases, as creative people, this is a really important point. As creative people, we show up to places where we believe someone is above us, And we are, you know, putting ourselves in a position, you know, to receive their critique, right? And it's difficult not to internalize that criticism.
Yeah.
Right? It's difficult. And sometimes hard criticism is necessary.
Sure.
Valuable, right? Yeah. It's valuable. But it's also really important to remind yourself that you deserve safety and respect and to be valued as a human being in your creative process. And when a person does not do that or does not provide you with that safe space, it's okay to leave that space.
Absolutely.
It's okay to say no, thank you to you and your whatever, right?
Yeah, and it felt healthy to do that. So mentally healthy to leave the space.
Right.
Even though, you know, maybe it sometimes is hard to leave those spaces because you think you need them.
That's right.
Get to the next level or to get paid or to get.
I have to put myself through this in order to earn my right to be in the world in this way. Yes.
Know, I'm not a wuss, you know, I'm strong.
Right. I'm strong.
No, I don't need to be. I'm strong enough to actually leave and find other space with people who can give me actually really good feedback.
Right.
Even if it's, you know, it might be uncomfortable to hear, it can be said in a way that helps me with my art rather than is just like throwing mud on me.
Right. Exactly. Right. Insulting you at your core. Like, for what is productive about I don't care about, like saying that I don't care about this.
Yeah, what is productive about it? Yeah, it doesn't, that didn't help me at all. And I knew that, and I thankfully knew what it looked like from the artist way, but yeah, I was like, I can't deny that this affects me.
Right.
Because if I tried to deny it, which I first tried to do,
yes. Right.
I am not going to get through it.
Yeah.
So I need to feel it, acknowledge what it is, and also like what it's bringing up for me so that I can help myself. I can be a healthy person doing art.
Right. And practice that self-compassion and parent yourself, learning to, you know, that's all the other things that we talk about and all the, you know, in Restory. And if you could see me and all of that stuff that, you know, if you're not in our circles, please come and join our circles, because these are the conversations that we have all the time about, you know,
so helpful.
Listening to the critic and not necessarily believing everything they have to say. The inner critic, the voice in the back of your head, that voice of resistance. You know, sometimes that voice of resistance is helpful, like maybe 1% of the time. Maybe it is being truthful.
Yeah.
But in most cases, it's just trying to shut down the growth, because stagnation is homeostasis. Like staying where you are is what's comfortable, because that's what your body knows and understands. And so, you know, trying to move forward, you know, gives us a lot of self-doubt. And that's where that imposter comes in and all of those things. But when you practice these tools on a regular basis and you continually show up to these environments, whether it's as a creative person or it's an entrepreneur or you're in your business or you're in your relationships, if you are practicing these, you know, tools and activities on a regular basis, like you said about activism, like you're showing up and you're preparing, because when you're met with the challenge,
right.
What if you're prepared, you know what to do.
Exactly.
You know who to listen to. You know when to listen to yourself.
Yeah.
You know when to say, oh, this is not the right space for me. This is not the type of critique that I need in order to grow. Right? Not just, well, I have to listen to this person and I deserve this abuse.
Right.
Because this is how I'm supposed to become a creative person.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Which is not true. I know about that.
Exactly. Victoria Reeves says the pressure to produce and and others' judgments have stifled so many creatives and wannabe creatives from just getting started and, of course, finding our unique voices, creating safe spaces for exploration with no destination in mind. Thank you, Victoria. I feel like you and I are kindreds. For myself and others feels as important as food, shelter, health to me. Bravo.
Yep.
Amen.
For real. It is food. I mean, I know that we need food, but we don't need like the Cheetos instead of like
right. Instead of the green vegetables and the hearty, the stuff that really feeds us, the stuff that nourishes us.
Exactly.
And what nourishes us is these spaces to be able to safely remove the layers and be able to simply sit in, this is the story that's coming up for me and I am terrified to look at it.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be in a shiny space. In fact, often that's a place where it feels hard to investigate that or explore it. Yeah. It feels like, I mean, I understand the first time that I did a poem as a spoken word poem was at a poetry slam in New York at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe. So this is like
iconic, the pinnacle. Also, the very first time I ever did this, I was standing next to giants.
The scariest place I can find to do this.
Right.
And there was something powerful about that because I did it. And even in this I didn't even realize how scary it was until I got up on that stage. I mean, I'd seen my friends do it and everything, but once I did it, I was like, oh my God, there's a stage here. And also a spotlight and this guy at the bar yelling, read the goddamn poem. And I laughed through the entire thing, but I did it. And then they voted me to come back and do another poem. I was like, and I did it poorly, but I used the microphone that time. And there were, steps I took, milestones. And after it, I realized, yeah, I can do this. I've listened to so many people up here that were really great and also awful or in process or whatever. And I'm in the middle somewhere. I should never just shut my mouth. But, sometimes that's hard to remember. It can be hard to remember not to shut your mouth. That you should speak up, that I can speak up. What I have to say is valid and it's also important to me and might be important to somebody else. So,
and there's space for all of it.
Yeah. I really appreciate the kind of work that you do that it's not just about being an artist, that it's about being a person.
Yeah.
And I've been told so many times in storytelling classes that if you're a human being, you're a storyteller.
Right. So
I feel like that kind of goes
hand in hand.
Yeah, with the work that you do and being mentally healthy, that being able to tell our stories in whatever.
Yes. That's the thing is I'm an artist. I am a performing artist. I am a writer and a storyteller. But that's not what everybody has to be. And you don't have to be what I am to show up to this space and work through this process and reach whatever goal you've set for yourself. Yes, the If You Could See Me project is about, the storytelling process, but ultimately it's about the storytelling process, in here. What's the story I'm telling myself about who I am and what I'm worthy of and what I'm capable of and where I deserve to take up space or not. And then if you can do that, and, especially if you're not a performing artist, if you're not a storyteller, if your ultimate goal is not to stand up on stages and tell your story, if you can do that, then you can do fucking anything.
Yeah.
If you can get up on that stage and tell that story and go through this process, then whatever the goal is, you know, become a therapist, become a bodybuilder, you start your own business, travel the world, get married, get divorced, have a baby, you know, sever ties with toxic people, like whatever the goal is.
Yeah. You can
public speaking is the number one fear.
Yeah. Yeah. You already did the impossible. Now everything is possible.
You walked through fire.
Yeah.
So everything can happen now. So that's the thing, is that, you know, sometimes I struggle with like, what box do I put us in this project? Because it doesn't squarely fit in one box, because it's about being people.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad it doesn't have a box, because I didn't understand the mental health power that telling a story has. And it also dovetailed with my own creativity, but you know, it's not the only place that I need to tell a story, right? I have to tell stories to educators and administrators and politicians, and for me, for my family, for my friends. I mean, what I realized also with activism was that, queer activism, I think, really helped me understand that art was part of it.
Yes.
Like, that messages that change needs this kind of messaging, this creativity in it. Besides the fact that activism needs fun, because it's hard work, it also needs the punch that a piece of art can give to it. Like the levity, but also the gravity of it.
Yes.
At the same time.
It has to be at the same time.
Give you a big report card. And, you know, like, which is kind of funny and hokey. And then you're like, yeah, you doing bad. You're doing bad stuff.
Right.
Here's list. And everybody's like, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, that's true. Okay. We see it now.
Yes, we see it.
And whereas if you're like just telling people facts, they're like,
this feels like homework.
Yeah. Right. And I didn't like school, or I'm done with school. And but the report card is helpful, or I don't know, a play or something, you know, that people can access in a different way with different senses. And you can try it in so many different ways, because there's so many ways to reach people. We're complex beings.
The understatement of the universe. And I think that, you know, as we end, sort of creating space for our complexity and being open to all that entails, right? That all that comes with, you know, instead of trying to oversimplify and boil it down to the lowest common denominator, let's expand it for the spectrum of the human condition.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That just made me really happy and excited. Like, it just like, yeah, I felt that right here.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Sometimes I say things that I feel deeply, and you know, I gave myself chills a little bit there, thinking about a world in which, you know, everybody, you know, people and systems alike, you know, accept, acknowledge, and create space for the spectrum of the human experience, and like value that there's value in understanding our differences and wanting to know what they are. You know, this is a space where I want to hear every story that there is to be told, because every story represents an experience, right? And if I'm telling you or you're telling me your story, it resonates with me, and it resonates with me based on my experience.
Yes.
Right. And I can't share everyone's experience. So we need all the stories to represent all the different experience, you know, and so and then it becomes like this huge web, and I'm, you know, imagining, and it gets very big and it feels very overwhelming. And then we just come back to a single story.
I want to just say one thing about, there's a storyteller in Chicago named Lily B. And I took one of her classes. It's called Story Neighborhood. And it was very helpful. And she said something, and I'm going to try to quote it, about, she was asking me about the drum story. She's like, do you feel good? Like, you know, are you over this and ready on your way? And I'm like, no. Right. Freaking hate this asshole, you know,
right,
teacher. Who is he? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, great. You should say that. Say the story, you know, like that you're not over this, that you're in the blah, you know, that's not what she said, but because it allows her or anybody to go to their authentic place.
Yes.
In themselves. Which is the place, I believe, I mean, I want to affect people with the stories that I tell.
Yeah.
And I want to listen to those stories because it allows me to go to the authentic place.
Exactly.
To find those stories and be okay with them.
Yeah.
To be able to say them, like in If You Could See Me.
Well, that's, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, I don't know if this is what I call it, meta storytelling, you know, telling the story about telling the story. Like how is it affecting you to tell the story? How is it affecting you to mine this, you know, because that's ultimately like what it's for, right? Is to tell it and to talk about what the experience is, and to connect it to your own emotional space.
Yes.
To be able to, right. Because you've got to process it too. And sometimes often it's hard to go through that process of telling the story, learning to tell the story, deciding what story is going to be told. And we have this inclination to only tell a story once we get to the point where we're okay with it.
Yes.
Right. We've come through the other side and we've learned all the lessons, and you know, and sometimes the answer is, this fucked me up and I'm not okay.
Yeah. And telling that story in a way that I'm not running through, or people are not running through. I mean, okay. So the person who made this mug is Amanda Roundtree, and she does a lot of improv, but her storytelling was very helpful with the feedback. And she would tell me to take pauses, that it's okay to breathe in my stories. And I realized that I was worried about taking up space with my stories. And I really appreciated her feedback to take up the space. And she was like, yes, take up space. Yes, of course. And I, again, was faced with the taking up of space. And that, like you said earlier, when I said take up space, you said that period at the end of it, that it is a...
Also, that's the name of this. That's the name of this episode, Donna.
Okay.
Taking Up Space with Donna Joyce.
All right.
That's it. Because I mean, like when you hit on something, you really hit on it, and that's what all of this is about. You know, claiming a creative identity, claiming whatever identity you know, you need to claim as an individual is about deciding and then doing the taking up of space.
Yes. Yeah. If we did this episode like a year ago, I would have been super uncomfortable. But now I'm kind of excited. I think that people think that I was always able to take up space because I would speak up, but I was always so uncomfortable. I wanted to like throw up every time I did it. So I don't necessarily feel like I want to throw up every time now.
Amazing.
Yay, progress.
Well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put links to all of these amazing teachers that you have talked about so that other people can find them.
Thank you.
Because you have a village. You have created a village of support network, of teachers, of community around yourself. And what I think is so important for anybody who is on a journey of, you know, it doesn't have to be creativity, whatever it is to surround yourself with people who are doing the thing that you want to be doing. Ask for support. Expect it to come in a way that is meaningful for you and set those boundaries so that you don't put yourself in a position to be abused.
Yeah. Thank you.
And to keep showing up and, you know, and set in motion all of those things that are going to help you not forget or not put it aside for another person's needs or, you know, all the things, right? Yeah. So you are doing the thing, my friend. You have done the thing. You continue to do the thing. You are an example for all people who want to step into their creative identity and to learn how to take up space authentically. So thank you so much for spending some time with me this morning. Thank you to your family behind you who have engaged in our conversation in their, you know, respect of your space.
Funny. Yes. Yeah. The little, yeah. The people behind me.
The flitting about that is occurring. So have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who joined us today. We will see you again next week.
Yeah. Thanks for this opportunity. I love these conversations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.